How we are all afraid of death, but for some reason we are not afraid to lie down and fall asleep. But sleep is very similar to death. The body lies, but the soul walks, communicates, sees. It is only in recent decades that science has begun to receive some answers to the question of why a person actually spends a third of his life sleeping. And even after we gratefully accepted all the explanations of the scientists, we remain perplexed. Is it really necessary to subject a person to mini-death every night for these purposes? In order to compare sleep with death, you do not need to be either a scientist or a philosopher. It is enough to look at a person who is in the stage of slow sleep. Up to a certain point, even doctors were not able to diagnose death with absolute guarantee. The lethargic sleeper looked so much like the dead. There are different theories about why the human body needs sleep. Theory of energy conservation, theory of recovery, theory of brain plasticity. But from whatever point of view you look at these theories, theological or evolutionary, they do not explain much. We know that the Creator created man with wisdom incomprehensible to us, and every tiny hole, every muscle, every bone has exactly the shape, material, structure that are necessary to perform their functions, no more and no less. And if He created us in such a way that for all these purposes, conservation of energy, restoration, ordering of information, we need not just to rest and stop moving for a while, but to get into a completely changed state of consciousness, the conclusion suggests that this is the case here. From an evolutionary point of view, sleep seems to be a rather dangerous process. If we assume that the human body, as it is now, is the result of natural selection, then it does not make much sense. How did the human race survive if a third of its life is unconscious, exposing itself to the danger of being eaten by any predator? There are examples in nature of more effective sleep mechanisms in this regard. For example, dolphins have one hemisphere sleep. This is when one half of their brain is asleep, the other half is awake, making sure that the dolphin stays close to the surface the only way he can breathe, and also so that he does not become prey to predators. Storks, albatrosses, swifts and other migratory birds sleep during flight. Tired birds either move inside the shoal or rise to a great height and plan. And although their eyes are closed and some of their muscles are relaxed, they confidently stick to their course, guided by hearing. Ducks can even choose which half of the brain to use. Why shouldn't a person get settled in the same way? Enter an altered state of consciousness. The ways to enter an altered state of consciousness are numerous and well documented and include, among others, hallucinations, hypnosis, trance states, meditation, and the use of psychotropic substances. Sleep is the only altered state that we enter involuntarily. There are several stages in the sleep cycle, and each of them is quite complicated. What just does not happen in our brain during sleep? But why would a person need all this instead of a normative consciousness? Why not stay alert and productive like a dolphin? How it happened that such a material creature as man could achieve self-awareness is another great mystery that science does not have a definitive answer to. Thanking the Creator for returning the soul to the dead, we, in fact, declare that sleep is a kind of mini-death. The sages of the Talmud even calculated how much sleep is like death. There is a natural built-in mechanism inside each person that actually makes him partially dead for about 8 hours a day, and as a result, unable to deal with the daily affairs of the material world. Like the ancient prophets who needed to enter a trance state that rendered their bodies inert so that their consciousness could freely interact with higher dimensions, we achieve the same goal through the simple act of sleep. Sleep is for us the time interval during which we have the physical opportunity to enter into direct interaction with our second consciousness, the one that psychoanalysts called first the subconscious and then the unconscious. According to the hidden Torah, just as the body naturally weeds out and filters out the good from the bad, our souls must undergo a similar purification process, which is carried out through sleep. Man is a multi-dimensional entity, and he lives both in the physical and spiritual dimensions at the same time. The consciousness that we operate with every day deals with our physical dimension. When we fall asleep, we break away from the physical world in order to interact with the spiritual world. Currently, cognitive science cannot explain either the need for the type of sleep we fall into, or how consciousness wakes up at all. In many laboratories around the world, scientists are trying to solve the oldest mystery of the illusory world: what happens to us in a dream? To date, the most powerful, previously unimaginable research tools have been used: neurochemistry of individual cell groups and positron emission tomography, which allows recording the activity of individual neurons at the very moment of stimulation. With the help of these tools, scientists have found out who sleeps, how much, what happens in different cycles, phases and stages of sleep with the entire human body and with his brain, and much more. Scientists have found out that a person does not smell during sleep, and even the most pungent cannot always wake him up. But why this is happening is still unknown. They found that the blind from birth also see dreams, but not in the format of visual images, but in the form of pseudo-sensations of the rest of the senses. They found out that at a certain point in sleep, the neurons responsible for movement turn off, and therefore the human body is paralyzed for a while. It was assumed that this state is necessary for our body for its own safety, so that we lie quietly in our beds and do not perform any actions from dreams. But is this the main and only reason for sure? After all, we see dreams not only during those periods when we are paralyzed. And the most important thing, why do we need dreams? There is a theory that sleep is a kind of psychotherapy. Due to the reactivation of neural groups, the brain finds a painful place, associates these neurons with something and creates a different combination with them. Another theory suggests that this is a protective biological mechanism that allows you to train to experience the threats that you have to face in life. Another theory claims that dreams are simply some kind of side effect of sleep. No theory is universally accepted. Maybe because the transcendental phenomenon is basically impossible to explain from an evolutionary point of view, and in order to understand this issue, it is impossible to do without the concept of what a soul is. As soon as our souls leave our bodies, they go to a certain spiritual dimension, to where they are truly at home. While there, they can interact with other spiritual entities, such as angels, and can hear something of what the future has in store for man. In the scientific world in recent years, there has been no previous unequivocal belief that if all 100 billion neurons with all their connections are examined with the help of powerful and precise equipment, it will be possible to penetrate all the secrets of sleep. The voices of scientists who believe that the answer to the question of the nature of consciousness lies in the field of quantum mechanics, since classical physics is unable to explain it, are becoming louder. And this is not surprising, because the divine tradition teaches that physical laws operate in the physical world, and the laws of the spiritual worlds are completely different. Regardless of the country where we were born, regardless of the status and position of our parents, we have only 3 programs for our incarnation. The minimum program is to work out the karma of past lives and, if possible, not to accumulate any negative karma. The maximum program is to know yourself and escape from the wheel of birth and death on earth. Regardless of our desire, we are an instrument in the hands of our Creator, with which He learns about His creation. That's it. The rest is just tools for implementing the above programs. We come into this world empty-handed, and we will leave it without taking anything material, only experience and knowledge. Whether we believe in rebirth or not, it exists regardless of our faith. We have already lived many lives before this life, and in each one we have lived, we have done something, or conversely, we did not do what needed to be done. Our actions in a previous life led to certain results that we reap in this life. Of course, you can call this punishment for past sins, but in fact, this is the law of causation. Each of our actions has a certain result, which we will have to live with in the future. We start our life from the level at which we completed the previous one, and therefore all the results of the previous life will be reflected in our current life. In the universe, nothing disappears without a trace. Anyone who believes that he will die and nothing will happen after that, then he will probably be upset that there will be a new birth and we will all have to bear responsibility for actions in past lives. And there is no need to complain about the supreme injustice or the fact that God punishes some of us. We created today's life with our own hands in past lives. We must realize the following. We are temporary guests on earth. We come and go, but the earth remains. We have a very short time to live on earth, and we are reminded daily that we are mortal. Sleep is a mini-death. After all, when we fall asleep, we don't care about everything that surrounds us. In our dreams, we don't think about houses, cars, or other trinkets. They just aren't there. It will also happen after death. You will leave and you will not care about what remains here in this world.